let's have Corinne. Always got to remember to record. So welcome to our Q&A. Corinne, you can introduce yourself and then I'll introduce and get started in the conversation.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. We're really excited to see you all today and talk about the Mutual Aid Fund. I'm Karen. I'm the Assistant Project Manager with NJBEFA.
Thank you, Corinne. And I'm Cecile Edwards, the Senior Manager of the New Jersey Birth Equity Funders Alliance. And we are extremely excited about this process and this opportunity. There's so many things to learn and to expand upon with the perinatal workforce and birth equity community. And so today we're going to be doing this Q&A, or we're doing this Q&A on the Perinatal Workforce Wellness Mutual Aid Fund that we are initiating, gathering stewards, and also I'm going to be starting this process next year. And thank you so much for those who are introducing themselves in the chat. So to get started, we just want to tell you a little bit about NJBEFA. So the Birth Equity Funders Alliance is really about advancing community solutions. And so in 2021, 4 funders came together. We now have 6 funders, but 4 funders came together in the spirit of that collective action around birth equity to advance these community-based solutions to address maternal mortality and birth equity in New Jersey, specifically by funding Black, Latinx, and Indigenous organizations that are serving in New Jersey, with the purpose and the vision of reducing maternal mortality in New Jersey and eliminating racial disparities in birth outcomes. So that is a little bit about who the Birth Equity Funders Alliance is. We do have a community advised fund. As Christina shared in the chat, she is one of our community advisory committee members. And what that means is that they steward the direction of that fund. So who gets the funds, evaluating applications, et cetera, et cetera. We just completed our 2nd round of RFP and are in the evaluation stage and very excited to be able to meet our new grantees in the coming weeks. So that's some of the work that we do. And one of the ways that we are now expanding into advancing community solutions is through this Perinatal Workforce Wellness Fund. So what is mutual aid in general, and why mutual aid? So, I mean, mutual aid is something that communities have done since time immemorial, right? If someone is in need in community, the community comes together to provide service for that individual or that family to ensure that they are well, right? And so the perinatal workforce, as we know it, has been experiencing some lack of support, institutional support, though they are making lots of strides to support and advocate for birthing people, especially birthing people of color. However, doulas, midwives, childbirth educators, lactation specialists, and perinatal workers need our support. And we are very well aware of, through our landscape analysis that we did last year, or completed last year, that a lot of perinatal workers are on the verge of or in the space of burnout, right? Because there are low wages, long hours, oftentimes little to no benefits, isolation, secondary trauma, and burnout as shared. So as a solution to that, mutual aid incomes mutual aid. So, mutual aid, again, has always been a powerful response to social, political, and economic systems to meet the basic needs of all people. And is rooted in cooperation and solidarity, and creating new social relationships, and just looking at and understanding unjust power systems. And oftentimes these systems work very slowly. Philanthropy has always been a way to bridge that gap and provide a way for communities to thrive in the face of any other systemic or institutional barriers. So in doing so, we would like to create a safety net for perinatal workers and allow them to fortify their individual practices while collectively advancing the quality of care provided to birthing people and their families. So that is the role of mutual aid in general. So in that vein and in that light, we did learn, NJBEFA learned of a mutual aid fund that was being initiated in Canada, actually, by the Denmark Fund. And the Denmark Fund, we had a conversation with them, really loved what they were doing, and wanted to replicate that. They do their fund, their mutual aid fund for doulas only. However, it was quickly noted that we would probably need to expand beyond just doulas and look at the perinatal workforce in general for the work that they do, especially since people oftentimes may have multiple roles within the perinatal workforce as well. So we're seeking 5 to 7 perinatal workers to design and steward the new mutual aid fund. And the stewards will, this is included but not limited to, set the guiding principles of the fund, establish eligibility requirements for dispersing funds, applying, et cetera, identify funding opportunities. So if there's ways to keep the fund bolstered, then they can look at those opportunities and consider how we can be of support to ensure that it happens. Review applications and make funding decisions on a rotating basis. And that's just some of the considerations based on what we learned from other mutual aid funds that are stewarded by the community that would be needed. However, based on who is chosen, they would also determine what else would be needed going forward for such a fund. So the guidelines, again, including but not limited to, actively participate in the work of the mutual aid fund, attend 75% of the required meetings, at minimum 75%. So for example, if there are 10 to 12 meetings per year, attending at least 8 to 10. Because what we know for sure is that when you're working on these kinds of projects, it really requires presence, because a lot can happen in one meeting, right? And a lot of decisions need to be made. And we want to make sure that everyone is an active participant to ensure that there's as much of a robust conversation around the needs as possible. Of course, working as a team to fulfill the committee's goals or the steward goals, work in partnership with the CBOs, the Alliance, and the CAC in fulfilling the work. Be familiar with the aspects of the committee's work and follow up on requests and tasks such as evaluations and feedback in a timely manner. If 2 meetings are missed, so this is not meant to be punitive. If there are meetings that are missed, of course, we will require or ask that there's a check-in in person, by phone, or over Zoom to discuss whether continuing to serve is still something that works for your schedule and capacity. And if there are any changes, having a conversation with myself and Karen is what we would need to do in order to determine and move forward. Again, suggested but not limited to selected stewards developing various deliverables, because this is not just for internal work. What we find is that oftentimes other communities, funders, states become interested in the work that is being done. And so being able to provide deliverables that show the work that has been done is critical. So a plan for the perinatal workforce is one deliverable: goals, governance structure, decision-making process, evaluation criteria, bylaws, rules, eligibility requirements for requests, et cetera, and identifying a IT platform to support the administration and disbursement of funds. And some of this work has been pre-loaded, I guess you could say, just with examples from other organizations, but also some of the legwork that has been done by we're a sponsored project of the Community Health Acceleration Partnership, and they have done some legwork on talking to, for example, the owner of GoFundMe to see how we can partner, if that is a platform that the stewards find is a platform that they would want to use, as well as some other platforms. And the time commitment for steward is 18 months. Again, this is something that has been pre-queued, just thinking about what it would take to plan and then issue funds for a certain amount of time. And this can, once the selected stewards are selected and we have our initial meeting, which would happen in this year, by the way, before the full meetings start in 2024, we would determine whether 18 months is enough or if it needs to be extended, et cetera. But during the stewardship term, the stewards will rotate every 3 months as administrators tasked with reviewing applications and making reward decisions. And again, this does not have to stay this way. These are suggestions just to give everyone the opportunity to be able to be in the decision-making process as a leader in the decision-making process. But that could be different. You can decide something else. And the time period commitment may be larger during these periods of evaluating applications. And that's using this terminology that I'm using is not really expressing it well, because there will be a constant evaluation. I don't know that there will be deadlines and such. Perhaps there is and perhaps there isn't. And then for your commitment, you would receive a total of $5,000, which is dispersed quarterly over the term of your commitment. Okay. And just again, to cue up the process, we just sort of created a timeline, a possible timeline, and times to meet. So the time that was put there, I think it was like Wednesday from 10 to 12 is really a suggested time, but one of the first orders of business would definitely be, for selected stewards, would definitely be to determine what is the frequency of time that you would meet and when that would be. It's so much easier to be able to run meetings and get things done when you have that squared away. But for now, we do have some chosen times. Education and planning phase. So the first phase, again, ostensibly would be education and planning phase, and then a review period and continued learning. In the education and planning phase, what we have some pre-queued learning opportunities to further understand how this is going to be done. So it will be sort of learning and planning and thinking about how this is going to be set up, what the application would look like, et cetera, et cetera. And this phase actually might be longer. Right now we have 3 months, but it may need to be 6 months. Again, something that the stewards would determine for themselves and what the time span and period would look like. Some of the eligibility requirements. Matter of fact, let me stop here. Does anybody have any questions so far about anything that I have discussed or shared? No questions? If you do have any questions as we're going along, please share them in the chat. So the eligibility: resides in New Jersey, has experience in birthing issues through lived and professional experience, has available time to dedicate to the stewardship role, passionate about driving change for birth equity and perinatal worker well-being, and we will prioritize individuals who represent New Jersey's diverse language, ethnic, cultural, and socioeconomic landscape, particularly with Black and Latina families. Okay. So the application timeline, the applications are due October 29th by 11:59 p.m. The decisions will be made by the end of November. And if you have any questions, info@njbefa.org, or any issues with the application process, you can send an email to that email address. Yep. And just staying connected with us if you're not already on LinkedIn and Instagram. And if there are any questions, this is the question. This is the time for asking any questions. getting any clarity that you may need about this process and the purpose of it, etc. The deadline is October 29th, which is a Monday. At 11:59 p.m. And I see that the resource was shared here. Thank you for sharing that, Shen.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon, Cecile. I'm driving, so I can't type my question. Can I?
That's okay.
Okay. I have a question regarding the wellness aspect of it, the Wellness Mutual Fund, right? So if you are chosen as a steward for this program, when you speak wellness, are you saying regarding the perinatal worker or regarding the client's wellness? Is this for the actual
Perinatal worker?
Okay.
The perinatal worker. So this will be for issuing aid for the doulas, the lactation specialists, the midwives, the actual worker themselves.
And what does wellness look like for that particular worker, right?
Correct. So that's the question. One of the questions that the stewards would be answering and then deciding how they would steward this fund.
Right. Okay. That I wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
There's a question in the chat from Chantel. Will the stewards be responsible for implementing of mutual aid projects?
Will the stewards be responsible for implementation? Yes, so you're the ones creating what the guidelines would be for how the mutual aid is delivered, who would get and how they would get it and for what reasons. So being a full steward of the fund. Issuing the funds, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So it's literally you all have the reins to think about, plan, and then issue.
And I also just want to point out that this is an open-ended process for the stewards to really, like Cecile's saying, like shape how the mutual aid fund looks. But we are still here to provide support, to provide any resources that you might need, any connections that you would like to make. So really just I just want to raise that this is like a collaborative process.
Yes, so we are like the administrative backing basically, but you all the selected stewards would be the drivers, I guess you would say. And thank you, Alrima, for your comment.
And also, if of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute or just throw them in the chat. But also would be interested in hearing if anyone else has their own experiences with mutual aid. Or just have heard about other projects that pique their interest or anything like that as well.
Formally or informally, right? Because I think mutual aid has mostly been a very informal thing that communities just do with one another. So just childcare, if someone needs childcare, another person that they've worked with may step in and assist them with that.
I do have a question. So how long will this go on?
The mutual aid fund is to be a persistent fund from our standpoint. Doesn't have an end date. What may have a definitive is having a group of stewards that come together in this way. Now that doesn't mean that the stewards just go away, but that's something that would have to be decided, like what is now the next step for the stewards that help to fashion the fund. But it's not something that has like an end date. We hope that it's something that perpetuates for as long as it's needed. We don't want to keep it forever, in the sense that perinatal workers always need the wellness support. We're hoping that there will be changes legislatively, et cetera, and in the understanding in society around how perinatal workers need support, and that ship can run itself without having some mutual aid. But until that time, the idea is that it runs until that time.
Yeah. And yeah, we are definitely, like Cecile said, we don't want this project to be a one and done. And we do want to like make sure that's sustainable and that the work continues. So I mean, that would be also just a conversation for the selected stewards, as far as like how, what means do we want to pursue in order to, like, I guess, replenish the coffers of the fund. But like I said, that would be like an ongoing conversation.
Got it. I think I got one more question. So once the 18 months finishes for those 5 to 7 stewards that are selected, will they automatically be renewed, like put in back into another rotation for 18 months? Or is it like we need total new fresh faces?
I think that's something, again, that the initial stewards would decide. It's literally that kind of process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that is open-ended, and like we could, just for context, like our CAC members have a 2-year term.
Now they have a 2-year term.
Yes, now they have yes, they have a 2-year term, and then we essentially will open up the application process to others to join the CAC. That does not have to be how the mutual aid fund functions, but that is a possibility.
But I also want to be clear that, the goal is always to have other pathways for whomever comes through any project that we have to continue to stay active in the birth equity community in some way. So there's other things that we're working on, particularly around advocacy, specifically like legislative advocacy, that we see as a funnel for anyone who functions in any other capacity for this work, or working with the Alliance in some way. Appreciate the questions. Any others? And I did not mention that the NJBEFA is looking to initiate the fund with $50,000. So there will be funds to steward at the outset, just so that's also clear. I don't think I said that before. So there's a little bit of everything. There's some, learning how to administrate and develop and create, and also operationalize and fundraise. And there's a lot of different skill sets that are to be utilized and developed through this process. So. Thank you. Thank you for joining. And, I always say, be mindful of your own capacity in these situations. And, if you know anyone else who you think would be interested in this process, please share with them and encourage their application as well, because, we want to ensure that we expand the possibilities for various people in this. Yes, the application is live and on the website.
Yeah, and I just put in the info email address as well as my email address if you have any questions about the application, the process, the fund.
All right. If there isn't anything else, I mean, we have time if you all want to have any other questions. We're not trying to rush you off here. But if you have anything else, we are here. Thank you. All right. Well, enjoy your weekend, everyone. Have a relaxing weekend, and we will hopefully see your applications and applications of others that you share it with. All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Stop recording. Wait, did I hit record or did you, Corinne? Hopefully this records to the class.